Any collection, small or large, calls for ruthless editing. Always ask yourself, do I love it? Does it enhance my life? And can I live without it? Restraint calms the eye and gives everything a sense of purpose. Amy Lau. Hi guys, welcome back to Origami Twist. My name's Jen, and today is Jen's system for decluttering or purging your craft supplies. Okay? Now, I would like to state that I am putting my money where my mouth is, and I am doing a massive purge on Sunday of my craft supplies, and I'll put a video of that up on Monday. And if you would like to see that and future videos of mine, please subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and press like on this video if you enjoy purge videos and organizing and that sort of thing. I'd like to make a whole bunch more, but I want to make sure that you actually enjoy them before I go and do that. Okay, so I have a 3-step process for purging and decluttering just about anything, but in this particular case, it ties in really, really well with craft supplies. So the first thing is to determine whether or not you need to purge. Not everybody does. Some people have a lot of stuff and they just love it. They use it, they're surrounded by it, they have all their stamps within reach, and it works for them. And that would be a perfect case of don't worry about it, you don't need to declutter. However, I'm going to give you a list of words, and if any of those resonate on any level, I highly recommend considering whether purging is something that may be helpful for you. Okay, so here's the list. Do your items and your supplies and your craft room, does it cause dread for you? Do you feel stressed out when you think about it? Are you disgusted by the whole thing? Overwhelmed? Do you feel a little bit frustrated? How about couldn't be bothered or disinterested? That's a sneaky one, because sometimes we think, oh, I just don't have my mojo, I don't feel like crafting, when in reality, the underlying cause is that we need to have a good salad toss of our craft supplies and get some of the old ones out and maybe bring in a couple new ones and refresh the collection. So there's something to think about. So if any of those ring true, you may want to do a purge. And the first step is done. You've decided whether or not you're going to do it. Excellent. Essentially, my thought process behind step 2 is to create a vision of what you have and a vision of what you want. So in other words, have a good look at your craft supplies and think to yourself, okay, these are the different categories I've got. This is how I feel about the different categories. This one appears to be overflowing onto the floor, etc., etc. And make a little category list and some notes about each of the different things. If you have the resources available, such as a large open space, bring your craft supplies into that space and then sort them by type so you can have a better idea of what it is that you're going to be purging. Now, if you're doing that, I would do it on the same day that you do the purge so that you don't have all your craft supplies in the middle of your living room floor for the rest of your, rest of the month or whatever. But obviously, make it time sensitive and that sort of thing. But get a good handle on what you've got, and then get a good handle on what you want. So do you have a picture in your head of your ideal craft room? Has all your stuff been encroaching on the space that you work on? Is it hard to open drawers now because they're too full? So get a picture of the type of things that you want your craft room to look like. And now you've basically got a map. So as my notes say, have a general map and know where you are and where you're going. This will ease the journey and it'll keep you on track as well, because you know where you're headed towards and you know what you're leaving as well. So that's it. Step 2's done. Now, step 3, of course, is the tough part. But now that you've got step 1 and 2 under your belt, you're ready to make the plunge. And of course, the plunge is what to purge. What in the world do I get rid of? So I have 2 elements in the third section of the system. The first one is, what is this item's purpose? And has the purpose been fulfilled? And the second section is how to answer the question, what is the expiration date of my stuff? expiration date of my stuff. You might be thinking, but Jen, I've got paper. My paper doesn't expire. And this is where I'm going to introduce my leak. And the reason I'm using a leak is because the leak has a distinct expiration date. If I were to skip the idea of making leek and potato soup tomorrow night, and I were to put this on my bench, in a week or two, or the kitchen bench, in a week or two, the leek would start to smell really bad. It might start to shrivel up. Liquid might start coming out of it. Insects may be drawn to it. Did I mention it'll smell bad? Yeah, it's going to get messy and gross and yucky, and it will have reached its expiration date. And at that stage, I will immediately remove it from the bench and put it in the rubbish and take it out of my life. Some of the feelings I might be feeling about the leek when I do that sweep off the bench include dread, stress, because I don't want a messy leek on my bench, disgust, I mean it stinks, doesn't it? Overwhelmed, because it's now a major cleanup job instead of just a leak. Frustration, because, oh, how could I have possibly waited this long to get rid of this? Or why didn't I cook it? Couldn't be bothered? Yeah, I think I'll wait until after coming back from XYZ to clean this up. Or disinterest. Ugh, I really don't want to do that. Does that sound familiar? Those are the same things that I suggest that you think about when you decide whether or not you need to declutter. Dread, stress, disgust, overwhelm, frustration, couldn't be bothered, and disinterest. Those are the key indicators that an item has expired for you. It's that straightforward. So all you have to do when you go to purge is you look at the item. If you feel any of those feelings about the item, then it's time to let it go. Now, things that aren't on this list include it smells bad and, it's really messy. It's starting to leak. Yes, I know. but really, those are the two things that aren't on there. Now, this stamp is not going to start smelling, nor is it going to leak all over the place. However, the obvious things that make this obvious that it needs to go, occasionally that happens with your stuff. You just go, yeah, I don't like that anymore, I can get rid of it. And that's the equivalent of it smells bad and it's messy. I know immediately that I can get rid of it and I don't have to think about it. It's those other subtle clues that, if applied to our purging process, can make everything so much easier. So a couple of questions that you could ask yourself when you're sort of thinking about this expiration date process could be things like, if I walked into a store right now, would I buy this item? And if the answer is no, that's the equivalent of the leek smelling and being messy. You can get rid of it. It's hit its expiration date. You don't like it anymore. You can move it on and sell it or give it away, whatever it is that you're going to do to get it out of your house. The difference between leeks and stamps and craft supplies is that expiration dates for this sort of thing are unique to you, because the actual expiration date, the point where this will start to deteriorate and not be of any use anymore, is a fairly long period of time. I've actually had this stamp since 2002. We're talking 14 years, or nearly 14 years, and 13 and a half years, and it's still going strong. So the deterioration part of it isn't going to happen for a while. So the expiration date for an individual is going to be a lot shorter period of time. Sometimes it's not as obvious what the purpose is, or whether or not the purpose has been fulfilled. And typically you can tell that that's the case because you say something to the effect of, well, yeah, I think it's expired. I feel all those feelings that Jen talked about at the beginning of the video to indicate that I need to purge something, but, and then you have a really good reason why you're not going to get rid of it. When that happens, typically the kernel of truth about what the purpose is and whether or not the purpose has been fulfilled is inside the analysis of those statements. So let's have a look at those statements and go into a little bit of analysis on what might be going on when those statements are said. If you come across the following things when looking at your items, here are some good responses to think about in relation to them. This item has expired for me, but it's part of a collection, so I'm not going to get rid of it. My immediate response to that is, collections are fine, but fine collections are curated. So in order to keep a collection under control, you have to think like the curator of a museum. My perfect example is these markers. Now, a museum curator is in charge of the collection. They take things in and out as appropriate for what's going on right now with the museum. Are they doing some sort of theme and that sort of thing? Or has something deteriorated to the point where it needs to be removed or fixed? Or has the stuff sort of outlived the amount of space available for the collection? Now, all of those things can also be applied to craft supplies. And these particular ones here are markers, which every time I look in the drawer, I feel stressed out and frustrated and overwhelmed by them because I haven't used them in a year or more. However, they're part of my marker collection. But if I keep thinking about a fine collection is curated, then I can go, okay, well, these are no longer appropriate to my marker collection. They don't fit into where I am now. Crayola markers are not where I am now as far as artwork, right? You know where I'm going with this. It's okay to let them go because I'm curating my collection and these no longer fit into my collection. Something to think about. Okay, here's the next one. This has expired for me, but I might need it someday, so I'm going to keep it. So for example, I've got these building blocks that I bought at, I think it was Spotlight a couple of years ago, and I thought, ooh, I might use that someday, that's interesting. Well, for me, I don't actually have a purpose planned for these. They're just something that have been sitting in my arts and crafts box for the last few years, and they haven't been opened. So what I may come to realize is that the purpose of these blocks is not to use these blocks. So maybe I need to pass them on to someone else who can use them for an actual purpose and actually create something with them. And at the same time, I want to address scarcity fears head on because I understand the idea of, oh, but what if I run out or what if I don't have it when I need it? Well, the answer to that question is, what would you do if you didn't have this? How would you fix the problem? And if the answer is I'd go to Spotlight and buy a new packet for $2, it may be worth just moving this on if it stresses you out. If it doesn't stress you out, that's a whole different thing. But if you're feeling discontent, disinterest, etc., it may be time to move them on. And of course, sometimes the fixing of the problem is an opportunity for creativity. Oh, this is one of my personal favorites. This has expired for me, but I want to keep my options open. And my response to that is having unlimited abundance might allow you to create anything you want, but a lack of challenge can stagnate creativity. That's right, guys. It's the primary or elementary school art class conundrum. We want every single color of the rainbow, and so we buy every single color of the rainbow, even though we're only making one flower. In blue, which has been used, light blue, and then we didn't use any of I didn't use any of the rest of it. Now I'm going to be using these for videos coming up soon, but what's left in the packet will get moved on to somebody else once I've made the video because I don't use these. I haven't used them. It's not anything, I used to be interested in it and now I'm not, and it's ready to move on. So having every color of the rainbow is not necessarily an ideal situation. And of course, something to ask yourself when you're doing that, collecting the whole collection, is, okay, which one of these am I saving for a future purge session because I know I'm not actually going to use them? Say it with me now. It's just something to think about. This next one is the most complex one, and I think it's the one that stops people in their tracks. But it's also the last one on my list, so let's get into it. This has expired for me, but it cost me money and I don't want to waste it. You pay money in exchange for an item's purpose. That's what happens. You get the item and you get a purpose for that item from when you purchase it. Sometimes the item's purpose was to give you a thrill of purchasing it. This happened with these items. I bought them a year ago, maybe a little further than that. They were 50% off at Spotlight. I was so excited to see these dots that were really popular at the time. They may still be, but I didn't have any of these. I really wanted some. I thought they were pretty, etc., etc., etc. And so I bought them. And the thrill of the purchase fulfilled the purpose for me. Now, they haven't been opened. I haven't used them. I haven't found any reason to use them. And I may actually not discard them, I'll pass them on to a friend, but I may pass them on Sunday when I do my purge, because they've fulfilled their purpose in the purchase of them, and now I just feel guilty for buying them and I'm going to move them on. Now, the purchase of this may also make me think in the future, do I really need to buy that thing that's 50% off just because it's pretty? And I may make the decision not to get them as a result of making this purchase. So sometimes we do that, and sometimes we do that on a huge scale. And it's okay to forgive yourself and allow the items to move on. Even if the purpose of this was to give you a little bit of a guilt trip so that you don't do it again, the lesson's been learned. And having physical guilt hanging out in your creative space is, not only is it painful, but it keeps you from being able to create. So allow it to move on, and then just don't get it the next time. Get something you actually need. Okay, so you've purged your craft room. You've gone through the whole process. You've got all of the things that don't hold purpose or that have expired in your life out of your life. Now what? Well, you just keep in mind that your items are not concrete. They're not set in stone. They move. They're dynamic. And over time, items are going to expire according to your set of rules, and you'll need to move them out of your life again. Now, if you do it in one big sweep at this stage, going forward, you'll have less to deal with, and you'll probably be acquiring less because you're sort of thinking about the mindset behind some of these items and what their purpose is. And as a result, you should be able to just sort of let a few out and let a few in, and it'll kind of flow as time goes by. And you may find down the track you need to do another purge. But because you're using those declutter muscles over time, they'll be a lot stronger, and you'll be able to just do it easier and easier as time passes. There it is, guys. That's my purge video. I hope you enjoyed that. I would love to share more with you. If you have questions or comments, please let me know what your purging ideas are in the comments below. If you want to share them with us, it's always helpful to have more information. And I hope you guys have a great day. I'll be back on Monday with a video all about my personal purge that is going to happen on Sunday. I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you. I'm really looking forward to doing it. And I got a request earlier today to do a swatch of all my Versacolor cubes. I'm going to throw that in as a bonus video next week on top of the 3 that I normally do. So that will probably be up on Tuesday. So if you want to see swatches of the Versacolor cubes. All right, guys, have a great weekend, and we'll see you again on Monday. Bye-bye.